And the other potential driver is the first-party title generation. Because in the past, as you all know, we wanted to popularize console. And the title was something, and the first-party title main purpose was to make the hardware or the console popular, right? It is true, right? But there's a synergy to it. So if we have a strong first-party content, not only with our console, but also other platforms like computers. And the first-party can be grown with multi-platforms, and that can help operating profit to improve. So that's another one that we want to practically work on. I personally think there are opportunities out there for improvement of margin. So I would like to go aggressive on improving our margin performance.
So apparently PlayStation 5 is entering the last stage of its life, according to Sony, and they're focusing heavily on games as a service, which means we're not going to get any new IPs this year. Let's talk about it on the latest episode of DeckedUP, a Gaming and Tech podcast. Ooh, what's up, everybody? It's Mekel Kasanova, host of DeckedUP, a Gaming and Tech podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about PlayStation because, yeah, interesting day of news to wake up to. I was not expecting to wake up to see the articles that have been going around from Bloomberg and from IGN, or via Bloomberg, and then IGN is, putting their own spin on it. And then finding out, we're at the end of this console generation. I have a lot of commentary on that because it's something I've been saying for years, and very few people actually took me serious when I was saying this, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut to the chase and say it up front. Releasing a game console during the pandemic when people honestly didn't have money, didn't have jobs, and for the most part, you really couldn't easily buy one until like 3 years later. It's a bit of a dumb move, but let's go ahead and we're going to hop into this article. Before we do that, do me a solid. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you like it, sub to the channel if you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, and if you're listening to it on your audio platform, then make sure you like and all the other stuff, share it around. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this, right? All right, so it says right here, PlayStation 5 is entering the latter stages of its life cycle, says Sony. So this article is from Wesley Yinpool. They wrote it today. Well, yeah, they wrote it at 12:20 a.m. on Valentine's Day, and then they updated it about 3.5 hours later. Okay, so it says, let's get this out of the way. No, thank you. After sales of PlayStation 5 failed to meet expectations, Sony has said the console is entering the latter stage of its life cycle. Sony has set an ambitious target of 25 million PlayStation 5 sold during the current fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025, but has now revised its forecast down to 21 million after PlayStation 5 sales during the crucial holiday 2023 quarter came in lower than expected despite aggressive promotions. Not to mention they released a brand new PlayStation 5 last year. Or rather a revised unit, the slim model, mid-generation refresh. Sony sold 8.2 million PlayStation 5s during the third quarter ending December 31st, 2023, up from 7.1 million sold during the same quarter of the previous year. But that was not enough to hit Sony's lofty target, so they got arrogant, basically. According to Bloomberg, Sony's senior vice president Naomi Matsuoka said the company now expects the sales pace of the PlayStation 5 to start falling from the next fiscal year, which begins April 2024 and runs until the end of March 2025. Looking ahead, PS5 will enter the the latter stage of its life cycle, Matsuoka is quoted as saying. As such, we would put more emphasis on the balance between profitability and sales. For this reason, we expect the annual sales pace of PlayStation 5 hardware will start falling from the next fiscal year. Okay. Let's keep going with this article. It says the PlayStation 5 launched November 2020 during the height of the pandemic. It has now sold 54.7 million in just over 3 years. This November, the console turns 4 years old, and with Sony now saying it is entering the second half of its life cycle, thoughts will inevitably turn to the next generation and the PlayStation 6. One game that may be set for PlayStation 6 as a launch title is Hideo Kojima's return to the action espionage genre, Physian. Kojima has said work on the game is expected to begin in earnest at Kojima Productions after Death Stranding 2 and in partnership with Sony. Death Stranding 2 has a 2025 release window, and based on Sony's latest comments, probably won't come out before April 2025. Physian wouldn't then be expected until 2026 at the earliest, possibly 2027 or 2028. The PlayStation 4 came out November 2013. The PlayStation 5 came out 7 years later, and November 2020. If this pattern repeats itself, PlayStation 6 will come out November 2027. Elsewhere, Sony has said it will not release any major existing PlayStation franchise games before April 2025, ruling out big sequels in God of War and Spider-Man franchises anytime soon. Okay, well, first off, why the hell would you expect a new God of War or new Spider-Man when the latest entries literally came out not even 6 months ago for Spider-Man, and not even a year and a half ago for God of War. So that's foolish to expect sequels to that. All right, so in reading through this article, this doesn't mean that the PlayStation 6 is right around the corner or that the support for PlayStation 5. I've seen a lot of wild takes on Twitter, to be honest. There have been a lot of wild ones. All this is basically saying is that, all right, so it's been out we're closing in on 4 years. If they're going by their release cycle, it makes sense, right? All right, we're going to start prepping for the next console, but we're also at the second half. We're not at the tail end. We're at the second half of this console generation. When you put that in perspective, it makes sense overall. And I think a lot of things that I've been seeing have been absolutely wild. People are like, "Oh, they're done with the PlayStation 5. There's not going to be another PlayStation 5. They're going to be pushing for this or that," and it's just been wild. I've seen a lot of hot takes. Anyways, my thought process on that, all right, is I've said for years, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series generation of consoles, they should have dropped in either late 2021 or early 2022, or sometime within 2022. It should have dropped. Maybe even 2023, beginning of that year. And the reason I say that, when you release the console, legitimately during the height of the pandemic, people were let go. People don't have money. If you're in the US, you're not getting the stipend anymore. What are you doing? How would you expect to make any profit off of that? And this is for both PlayStation and Xbox. I would have pivoted and delayed my console, knowing that this is happening and I'm not going to be able to make as much money. And honestly, that was no need for these consoles to drop when they did, because no company, none of the game devs, not even the first party devs, were doing anything that took advantage of these consoles whatsoever. Like, there's literally almost no point to them. You had games that were still coming. When you have consoles coming out day and day on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series at the same time with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, what is the point? even the performance jumps weren't that great between last and this generation. So I didn't see the point as to why Sony did that or Microsoft did that either. It was just, hey, we had this set, we made the announcement at the beginning of 2020, and this is coming out. And then I'm like, all right, cool. Where are you going to make your profit? Because it didn't make sense. It didn't at all make sense. Yeah, I to me, that was a bit of a fail. Like I just, uh, mm, nope, nope, that didn't make any sense to me. Anyways, let's go to this other article. All right. So let me move this on over. And yes, people, you can see on the right hand edge, I use Edge browser. It's really dope. All right. So this article, also from the same person, released literally the same, actually minutes before the other one. So Sony will not release any new major existing PlayStation franchise titles before April 2025, like God of War Ragnarok and Marvel Spider-Man 2. Sony has said it will not release any major existing PlayStation franchise games before April 2025. In a financial call, Sony Interactive Entertainment boss Hiroki Totoki ruled out big new games in the God of War. Sorry, it's really early and I just got up. In the God of War and Spider-Man series during company's next fiscal year, which ends March 31st, 2025. Totoki said, regarding first-party software, we aim to continue to focus on producing high-quality works and developing live service games, but while major products are currently under development, we do not plan to release any major new existing franchise titles next fiscal year like God of War, Ragnarok, and Marvel Spider-Man 2. And they shouldn't, because those literally both just came out within the last 15 months. Totoki's comments appear to rule out everything from a Ghost of Tsushima sequel to a Horizon sequel before April 2025, which leaves a big first-party game gap in the PlayStation 5 slate. However, Sony will, of course, release new first-party games for the console from new franchises such as Haven Studios' Fair Games and Firewalk Studios' Concord, as well as non-major franchises. There's also scope to continue to release remakes of previous big franchise titles. Sony released Last of Us Part 2 Remaster earlier this year, and it seems likely other PlayStation 4 games will get similar treatment. Yeah, can we get the Order 1886 remastered? Or even Born remastered? Anyway. Meanwhile, Sony is pushing hard on so-called second-party games to help flesh out the PlayStation 5's upcoming exclusive games list. It has secured Square Enix's hotly anticipated Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as a timed PlayStation 5 exclusive, as well as eye-catching action games Stellar Blade and Rise of the Ronin, all of which are due out during 2024. Totoki's comments come after Sony confirmed PlayStation 5 sales had failed to meet expectations despite aggressive promotions. Sony had set itself an ambitious target of selling 25 million PlayStation 5s during the current financial year, but after selling 8.2 million PlayStation 5s in the third quarter to December 31st, 2023, up from 7.1 million sold in the same quarter during the previous financial year, Sony has now revised its full year forecast to 21 million, 4 million short. So, all right, try IGN Plus for a dollar. Hell no, I ain't paying y'all nothing. Anyway, sorry, I had to say that. All right, so, okay. Breaking all this down, right? I'm seeing people lose their minds on Twitter, like, "Oh, we're not going to get any new exclusives. There's no new first party titles from PlayStation. Like, what are they doing? How are they fumbling the ball this badly right now?" PlayStation has been doing this since PlayStation 4. There's a lot of games that were going to PlayStation 4 that were timed exclusives. They just had a longer time exclusive window. I mean, look at the Nier Automata, or Automata, however you want to say it. I know people like to flame me for how I pronounce that. But that game was timed exclusive to PlayStation 4 for several years. And then you got the Game of the Year edition on the Xbox One years later, you know. There's so many games, and people assume, and this is the part that just gets me, is when people assume that this is a doom and gloom type of situation. It's not at all. Literally, PlayStation has been doing this for a whole, well, at this point, generation and a half. Their first party titles are very similar. So they need to supplement those titles with third party. This is a basic business model, because if none of these companies had any third party timed exclusives or support, then you would have massive gaps. And I'm talking N64 levels of gaps between game releases, if you understand that reference. That was, that's pretty much all this is, you know. I would not freak out over this. You're still getting seven Rebirth. That's a timed exclusive. Same thing with Final Fantasy 16 was a timed exclusive. You're getting Rise of the Ronin, right? You got all these other games that are coming out. So they're still making PlayStation the place to be. But this also lets you know something that I and Gaming Chick, another content creator, have been saying also for years, is that PlayStation, outside of the PlayStation 5, or Sony rather, outside of the PlayStation 5 sector, isn't very profitable. They're not profitable in their movie sector. As we all know, the TV thing went kaput. It's not doing well. And cameras, so. Phones, not really. And they make some amazing Android phones that people don't talk about. Some of the best cameras, best silky smooth experience, but it's not something that is mainstream. They don't really put a lot of money behind it. I would spend money on a Sony phone before I would buy a Samsung or any other brand. And then there's also, it comes down to just the PlayStation brand as a whole. That's profitable. But when you look at everything, then you pretty much get it. All right. They're working on making brand new exclusives. So we got the Wolverine game. We got probably the next Horizon title, Spider-Man 3, I believe, due to the leaks we got earlier. We know that that's coming out later. And then you got other existing franchises that are going to come out down the road. But right now, we got this period, because y'all forgot about last year. 2023 was stacked. So right now, they're padding, and they're going to lean on their third-party games to be able to do that. Plus, they're also pushing for PlayStation titles to come out on PS5 as well as PC. Look at Helldivers 2. That game is insanely fun. Came out day and date on PlayStation 5 and on PC. So they're also going to be pushing towards that more too. And I know people hate games as a service, or at least that's the narrative that you hear constantly when you go on X or Twitter or any social media platform. But games as a service is a profitable model, more so in many aspects than just online or just local multiplayer or single player titles. That's just because the industry has set that up to be the standard. But yeah, that's what that is. Don't go doom and gloom. PlayStation still got another at least 4 to 5 years before we get any announcement of PlayStation 6. If they're losing money on this, they're not going to rush to throw out another console and devour this one. Economically, that wouldn't make any sense. We still got the reports and rumors that the PlayStation, the next handheld PlayStation device is going to come out and allow you to play PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5. That's not been confirmed whatsoever, but it's a rumor. And, people are saying that that's proof that the PlayStation Portal was a failed platform, which it's not, because you're still having a hard time getting it. It's not a failed platform. I think we've really gotten to a point where gamers and industry are or gamers and journalists and especially content creators are just looking for the next thing, because we're really in a point where nothing is really that exciting anymore. So people are trying to find anything to talk about, and it's just wild. Okay, future self here, future Mekel here. After having already recorded this video, I just want to hop in and say this real quick. The bigger implications of what the Sony announcement or the PlayStation announcement means is that games that are coming out on PlayStation 5, like first party exclusive titles, if they're literally wanting to expand upon that, that now means that they're going to pull the Xbox model of it comes to console, it comes to PC day and date, and they're going to make their profit off of it. Now, some people are going to say, why would Sony do that? I came here for exclusives. This is a for-profit industry. If you're not aware of that, now you know. If you don't know, now you know. It's for profit. It makes sense. How are they gonna? If hardware sales aren't doing well, you want to get people to buy your games. So literally, you just want to put it out on PlayStation and PC day and date. Saying they just did that with Helldivers, and look at how well that's doing. So don't be surprised if you do start seeing that going in the future. I mean, everyone's going to do it except for Nintendo. Nintendo's not going to ever do that, I assume. But I mean, this right here is just going to yield Sony and PlayStation at large a greater, higher profit margin. So I just wanted to add that in. So back to the rest of your video. Anyways, that's my thoughts on this whole thing. I think a lot of people blowing it out of proportion, especially on social media. This just seems par for the course of what any game company, I mean, Nintendo, Xbox would be doing, right? Even Nintendo has done that. I mean, look at how Octopath Traveler 1 was a timed exclusive for like several years before it went to PC. And same thing with Dragon Quest, several Dragon Quest games. Same thing. So, yeah. All that being said, though, what do you guys think of this news? Are you happy about it? Are you not surprised? Or whatever, like whatever your thoughts are. Let me know in the comment section down below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to it in audio format, definitely leave a comment or a rating, or do both. Leave a review at the same time. Say, hey, I enjoyed this show. 5 stars or whatever, however you feel about it on any of the platforms we're on. With all that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe, be blessed, have aloha, and yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one. Happy Valentine's Day.